Basketball, the sports craze sweeping the globe since 1891. Everyone is familiar with the tips, tricks, and strategies the greatest use to turn the tide of the game in their favor. But did you know that science is behind this legendary sport? In order to study ball games like basketball, we utilize kinematics, or the branch of physics that deals with motion, to understand how exactly we move within the game. Firstly, there are some important physics concepts you need to know. The first thing is velocity, the speed of an object combined with its direction. Take the basic act of shooting, for example. You need to propel your ball at just the right velocity to overcome the mass of your ball. If the ball's initial velocity is too small, it will not be able to overcome its own mass, and will therefore result in a weak shot. On the other hand, if the ball's initial velocity is too high, it will simply miss the hoop and bounce off due to excess momentum. The next important concept is acceleration, or how often you change your velocity. An important factor in velocity is that direction is also considered. A basketball player needs to be able to accelerate quickly in a short amount of time. For example, when getting past a particular agile enemy, a player must feint or pretend to be moving in one direction at first. When the enemy is fooled, the player must quickly accelerate by changing its actual intended direction so the enemy cannot react. Lastly is the concept of projectile motion. When an object is not traveling in any of the four cardinal directions, we determine its direction by using two axes, the x-axis and the y-axis. The x-axis being horizontal, left to right, and the y-axis being vertical, up and down. Any direction in a 2D plane can be determined using these directions. So when a player throws a basketball, he must ensure that it is traveling far enough horizontally and high enough vertically to reach the hoop. To conclude this all, we must remember that sports, and especially ball games, are inseparable from the concepts of motion. The most basic of motion concepts can be found in sports like basketball through the concept shown. We have observed that in every movement that a player or his ball makes, motion is ever present, and behind the most trivial things to make the universe work. Kinematics is incredibly important in basketball due to concepts like velocity, acceleration, and projectile motion. Kinematics is incredibly important in basketball due to concepts like velocity, acceleration, and projectile motion, which all deal with certain aspects of the motion of the objects, which is what kinematics does. So next time you see your favorite basketball player do a sick trick, remember that the science of kinematics is behind it. The rules of the sport is two teams of five players each must compete to get the ball into the opposing team's net. When in possession of the ball, a player must always dribble or bounce it constantly. Failure to do this so is a penalty. Players are not allowed to touch the ball with feet or fists. Once an offensive team crosses half court, They can return to their side of the court only if the ball goes there as well. Basketball is a non contact sport. Illegal pushing or shoving merits a penalty.